This week's channel message from the angels is an important one, and I'm really glad you are here and that you're not going to miss it. They're telling us that we are at the beginning, that this is the moment, that things are, it's almost like the beginning, and I think they say it is the beginning of a new year and beginning of a rebirth for humanity. And it sounds like the changes in the world are going to uptick dramatically, that we're going to have a drastic increase in the polycrisis of the world. But they say the important message here is that the things that are going on in the world are not what is going to drive our shift, that shift is coming from within us. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're here to share the energy of this message with me. It is a beautiful message, very, I think, like I said, an important message. And it's important that we are working together to bring this through and to hold it for humanity. So thank you for being here. And for those of you who are new, I welcome you to the channel. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. And I do that by going into a deep meditative state or trance. And I raise my awareness up as high as I can go. I go a little bit higher. I connect. And then messages and information and healing come through. And I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So this week's message is, like I said, they are definitely, it's got some heavy parts in this. And so I'm first going to share the message with you, and that's my usual format. I'll share the message. Then I'm going to break it down and we'll talk about the different pieces and we'll find more meaning in it as we break it apart. But in that process, I am going to be sharing some old channelings referring back to things I channeled about in 2020 related to some of these major Earth challenges that are ahead of us, some of the stuff the angels told us about before, because I think they're related to this. If you don't want to hear that part, if you would rather not talk about some of the more difficult things, some people really love to have the information and they feel better knowing. Some people, some people feel worse knowing. So if that's you, I would suggest just listen to the message and then log off after that. Because I am going to go into some of the details of stuff that the angels have talked about that may or may not be on the near horizon. So just a fair warning that to just check in with your own self, check in with your heart. The last thing you want to do is to have this create fear for you. So, and I know in some cases it's like, how can it not be fearful? Because we're talking about change and we don't like change. But the angels' response to that would be, we all knew about this before we got here. So there's no surprises, that this is all stuff that we knew was going to be for our highest and best. All right, there's one other thing I would like to try here based on one person's very persistent suggestion. Yes, I heard you, which is to put in the original audio that I channeled. I don't have the video of the original channeling because I do it at night by myself and I don't usually videotape myself. So I just have the audio. So today what I will do is put in just the audio so you guys can hear the original channeling from the angels as it came through. And then I will come back in and we will dissect it. So anyways, let me know if you like that. I will play it that way. I don't have the accompanying video, but I'll play the audio. When I do it myself, when I listen to it later and I put in the punctuation, the periods, I'm able to break apart the sentences more and read it more slowly. So maybe you like it the other way. Let me know. Many people have said they prefer it when I read it later. So let's do a poll. Please put it in the comments. Do you want to hear the original audio, or do you want to hear it after the sentences have been broken apart and stuff like that, when it's a little bit easier to follow? Let me know so that I know what to do going forward. Thanks, you guys. Enjoy the message. The birth is renewed, and you are formed once again. The time and the tide align to bring you home. Once yourself born again, you come to term with who you are. You come with the announcement of the new time frame, the new annual arrival. The sense of yourself as having been brought here by all you have done and borne and all you have been through, and the sense of yourself as having climbed to the horizon of the unfolding upon the backs of the weary days that unfold you count your blessings. We wish to surmise for yourselves in the instigation of this great change you are going through, that all will be well. All will be well for yourselves. All will arrive as was henceforth declared unto you before arrival, as you have known always and will always have known. You are aware of the coming times. A constriction and constraining hand comes, a time that demonstrates the falling of what is and the change and the shifting that must occur, the letting go of what was. The shifting around yourself is causal, you surmise. It is causing us to change, and we say, you arrive because of yourselves alone. There is no constraint placed upon you now. There is no foreshadowing to some external force that will bear down and force you to go, to become again. It is yourselves alone who create the change in your heart. It is yourselves alone who instigate the great force within that drives you home. The external circumstances that surround you now, to thrive or no, to stay or go, the changes will come. The world will happen, and the passings of these great occurrences, though measured in their effect and in totality, they will have brought about the destruction of many things. And you will find yourselves standing in the rhythm of the cacophony of the changes, of the everything that was, as it draws to a close, and feel yourselves aligned, not by force, but because you are brought forward by what is within you, by the chorus and the claim of your own heart upon the justice of your feelings toward yourself, the fairness of your mind toward your own heart, of the sensation of being loved, internal, the feeling that you are held within the bonds of a cherished bridging back to your own self. This occurs and is dealt at the same time as the great ruckus unfolds, as the great endowment of crushing blows upon this plane of forbearance. The great changes will instruct yourselves to let go, to release yourselves from the pantomime of living, to let go of the constructs that hold you down, to release yourselves from your forbearers and the afterthoughts which do you no help and hold you within the patterns of an instantiation that cannot endure any longer. And these will fall away, but they force you no further. You are not compelled to grow. You are not compelled to become and follow through. It comes through you because you want it. It comes through you by choice, not by surrender to a force that claims you, but because of the love that is within you, the love for self and for wholeness and for all that is and all you are endowed with. It is a coming to term of what is already blossoming in your own heart. It is the fulfillment of a wish you have made in coming. It is the continuum of an existence that has carried you here. It is the blessing of a life you are living and the reason for enduring all that was before. We bring to you now, in the sharpening ears of the cacophony of deafening turmoil, that you will be freed by choice, not by surrender, because you are guided by love from within. So let's talk this through, you guys. And there are so many things in here that are interesting to me because, so here's the first thing they say: the birth is renewed and you are formed once again. So think about what is happening right now, what we are in the middle of. We are in the middle of eclipse season and we are just on the heels of Easter. And you guys know, I am needing to take like the super rapid cliff notes of like Bible and religious text knowledge because there's so much of it coming up lately and I don't know it. And so sometimes I have to look up a lot of these things and I miss stuff. So when I start talking about things related to the Bible or related to the Quran or related to your texts, forgive me because I don't know and I'm doing my best. So, and if you have stuff to add for clarity, please do, because it will help everybody. So, but the birth is renewed. So we just are on the heels of Easter, which is like a rebirth, right? And think about that. And I just watched, this is so amazing because I just watched this really cool series on Netflix about Moses. And I really didn't really know, everybody knows, or many people know about general things about the story. And I knew general things, but this is a really well done series on Netflix. And they showed how there were so many symbols or things about the narrative of what happened in the life of Moses that mirror the life as it's told about Yeshua, about Jesus, and including the rebirth. And so, it was very interesting to see. So this message seems to, and it's not, I guess, not surprising that they had me look at that show. It showed up first as a suggested thing on my Netflix feed. It was like, watch this. And I wouldn't normally be drawn to that, but I was like, yeah, we got to watch that. So rebirth, the birth is renewed and you are formed once again. The time and the tide align to bring you home. Once yourself born again, you come to term with who you are. You come to term with the announcement of the new time frame, the new annual arrival. Well, one of the things they said in that Netflix show was that in the story of Moses, which I understand is in like 4 different religious traditions, like it's in the Torah, it's in the Quran, it's in all these different, don't quote me on that, but in this Netflix show, they said that the Moses story belongs to like multiple different religious traditions, which I thought was really cool. Right? And this seems to reference the Moses story. So they're saying that the new annual arrival, well, apparently in the Moses story, in that Netflix story, the guy said it says that Passover is the first month of the new year, and that's in Exodus, apparently. So this would be, according to that, we are currently this is the brand new year. It's like we just kicked off a new year. So I wasn't aware of that, but here's what they're saying, the new annual arrival. And this is a rebirth, a renewing. So, and this is for all of humanity. I feel like this is so important and so powerful, you guys. Like, I feel like we are, like, I feel like the moment has come, like the time is here, like this month is, and they had said before, the angels said the energy is heavy in the spring. Like the heavy is full of the divine, is when they say that it's heavy, like it's full of divinity. So the rebirth, we're renewed, a new annual arrival. So, okay, so let's keep going. And then they go on to say, you sense yourself as having been brought here by all you have done and borne, and all you have been through. You sense yourself as having climbed to the horizon of the unfolding upon the backs of the weary days. You count your blessings. I think that is beautiful. That we see ourselves as having gotten here. It's like, just imagine climbing over the rubble of all of your past wounding, of the weary days, right? That we're climbing over those weary days to get to this horizon. So we arrived. It was not easy to get here, to get to this new beginning. It came hard won, right? And they say, we are grateful. We count our blessings. So I think this is a beautiful acknowledgement, you know? Beautiful acknowledge. Oh, Rebecca says Passover starts on April 24th this year. Thank you for that. See, I wouldn't have known. So, so maybe this is timing with that, which is super interesting. The birth is renewed. So it's this whole period. So I don't know if these things we're talking about here are going to be happening after that, or how this is. Oh, she says actually the 22nd. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So it'll be very curious to see how this all unfolds, but we are in the time. So, and the new annual arrival. So anyways, I love that they are giving us credit basically for having been here and having gone through our junk and being grateful for it. And they go, and that I think refers to our healing. You know, we are grateful for our junk when we are healed. They go on to say, we wish to surmise for yourself in the instigation of this great change you are going through that all will be well. And what I love about this is they say, we wish to surmise. And to surmise something is like an idea or conclusion that you come to without concrete evidence. That it is referring to faith. That it is that we believe it, even though it's not. We don't they're asking us to take this journey to believe that we will be fine, even though we don't have a 100% guarantee in our hand. Right? It is not something physical we can point to. They're telling us to set down our fear and to trust and to have faith. And this isn't an issue of faith, that there's nothing they can give us that will reassure us to the point of something concrete, that it's always going to be that we have to surmise that all will be well. And they repeat, all will be well for yourselves. All will arrive as was henceforth declared unto you before arrival. So we knew this before we got here. We knew exactly what role we were going to play. We knew exactly how all of the changes would affect us. So there's nothing that's happening that we did not previously agree to in coming. And it was all part of our plan, and it is all for our highest and best. So however things unfold, we are exactly where we're meant to be. And we are experiencing this exactly as we were meant to experience it. And we knew about it before coming. So whatever we agreed to, it was worth it. You know, it doesn't matter if we have to go through some hard stuff. It will be worth it, or we wouldn't have agreed, right? That's the conclusion we're meant to come to here, right? And then they go on to say, as you have known always and will always have known. And I love that little play of like, you are eternal, and it's this all time is now. And it is that you will always, where does they say, as you have always known, known always and will always have known. So in other words, in the future, we'll think about this in the same way. They go on to say, you are aware of the coming times. And then they shift and they say a constriction, a constraining hand comes. So this is specifically speaking to new things that have not yet happened. A time that demonstrates the falling of what is and the changing, the shifting that must occur, the letting go of what was. So why is all this stuff happening? It is about the need to change the structures. And they've talked about this at length, that the structures of our world hold humanity in place. They make it too easy for us to stay in a rut of living the way that we have, our expectations are formed, and they have to break all that down. And then there's also the piece of it that that some of it is the stuff that we do in terms of our own action, but some of it is the structures of our world that hold us in place out of compliance, like paying taxes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying we're not going to have to pay taxes. Wouldn't that be great? But you know what I mean? There's certain things we have to do because that's how our world is structured. If we don't do these things, we don't, we have to go to the 9-to-5 job, or how are we going to pay our bills? Right? So these kind of structures that hold us in place, even if we know better, right? Even if we know there's a better world awaiting for us. So it's both. Some of it is the ruts that we're in. Some of it is the expectations that we have, which need to be broken down. Some of it is the structures of our world that keep us marching to a certain drumbeat that needs to stop. Yeah. And Maureen is saying a hell of a lot of junk it was that you climbed on the backside that you got over. Yep. Yeah. And Rebecca says, damn, I hate it when that wave we contracted, we signed before we came in. I know, right? So true. And Teresa says, we've already succeeded. Yes. And I think that is such enormous comfort to know that we have, and they've told us that many times, right? That they see us on the other side, that we've already made it. And you're saying, thank you for the reassurance, angels. Major power outages all around us, but not us. And major snowstorm, unusual in April. Isn't that wild? Yeah. Sorry, you're in a power outage right now. Well, you're not, but yeah, sorry for the people around you, right? Yeah, interesting. All right, so this is really about the things that are coming are about helping us to let go. And Amina says she has work plans to travel to the Indian Ocean. What did I really plan before coming here? I need to trust I'll be fine. Exactly. It's so much about trusting. And we have to, and we cannot live our lives in fear of what's coming. We have to assume that we have to make decisions based on the reality that's in front of us today, and to trust that if we're not meant to do something, we will be directed. And that's the best we can do. We have to live in the now. And even if they talk about scary stuff, we have to make choices, and we have to make choices based on how things are that we can see at the moment, not by trying to guess how things are going to be, because we can't guess. If we guess, we're always wrong. And that comes down to everything. And the way the angels have explained it is that even if we think that the economy is going to fail, and if you have kids and you're putting money in those kids' college fund, keep doing it. Even if you think that the economy is going to fail, because the energy of investing in your children's future will carry forward. It's the energy that we are putting out into the world. What are we creating? You are creating your children's future. And if you put energy there and you continue to do it, that energy will carry forward. And so that's why. So even if the world changes, our energy, the way we're working with our world, stays the same. And so that's what we're counting on. Yeah. And then it goes on. So next paragraph, they say the shifting around yourself is causal, you surmise. So we're guessing that this shift is going to cause something to happen in us, right? That it is causing us to change. And we say you arrive because of yourselves alone. And I think this is huge, because I think there's a lot of us that might think that when people, like all of us, we are all speaking to the choir here. Like all of us are on board, or we wouldn't be listening to these messages. But some of us might think, wow, when the world falls apart, when all this stuff happens, everybody's going to be turning to faith. Everyone's going to be looking to the angels. And they're saying, nope, that these things by themselves will not cause people to change. And they said that we think that it's going to cause us to change or cause people to change. And they say, no, we say you arrive because of yourselves alone. There is no constraint placed upon you now, and which makes sense, because they honor, above all else, they honor our free will. And so they're not going to create an environment that forces us to change. They're going to create an environment that invites us, that provides the opportunity for us to experience change, right? Where we always have the choice. They go on to say there is no foreshadowing to some external force that will bear down and force you to go, to become again. It is yourselves alone who create the change in your heart. It is yourselves alone who instigate the great force within that drives you home, right? So this is really putting it in our own lap and saying that, it's choice. And the beauty of that is that we then can say we have the power to do it. If the choice is ours, then there's nothing preventing us. So that's a beautiful thing, right? And the only thing that might be preventing us is the external conditions, which they are going to break down for us. So I see this as a really uplifting and positive message in that sense. Yeah. All right. They go on to say the external circumstances that surround you now, to thrive or no, to stay or go, the changes will come. The world will happen. The passings of these great occurrences, though measured in their effect, in totality, they will have brought about the destruction of many things. So I think this is a very important, their phrasing, they don't choose their words by accident, right? I feel like every part of this has weight to it. So the external things happening around us now, and so they're saying no matter where you are right now, whether you are thriving or not thriving, right? Whether like to stay or go, whether someone is on board right now or not on board right now with the giant change and this shift in humanity, right? They say either way, the changes will come. The world will happen. And then they say the passings of these great occurrences. So these great occurrences, I think, are the things that they talked about in the beginning. And I wanted to go through those with you guys. So, like for those of you who are new to these messages, like what is it that they've talked about? Some of these are a great earth rift. And I wanted to go into more detail about that. And maybe now is the time to go into more detail, to share that with you about what that is. So it was literally, I think, the first of these messages that I channeled back in like July of 2020. And they talked about an earth rift, a great opening in the earth. And it's like an earthquake, an earth rift, a big earth thing that happens. And they have said, and I pulled up some of those messages so I could kind of refer back to them now to share them with you for those of you who are new. They say it happens near Indian line, near ocean. And you guys, you have to know, this was at the beginning when I was first channeling, and my channeling has gotten a lot better. So back then, I mean, like, that's why I look at this stuff and I'm like, okay, all the words were important. When this came through, it hit me out of left field. It shocked me. Like, I didn't share it for months. I sat on it for months. So I trust it, but at the same time, know that my channeling was not like these days. It's much more fluid. It's much more eloquent. Back then it was much more like it came in like little blobs. So just know that as I share this with you guys, it happens near Indian line, near ocean. And so I forgot about that specific phrasing, right? And then they go on to say, I'll read you the rest of this, but I want to show you what that means to me. Then they say rumbles, caused disruption, then crack, then opening, all unfolds. And then they go on to say, it will be massive, much bigger than you are imagining. And then they say it's a devastating effect to the world because when it occurs, it leaks gas that impacts the air. And that was the main thing they wanted me to tell people, is it becomes hard to breathe. So this happens around you. They say share it openly. It can be helpful. It becomes a problem for many because there are repercussions. So there's some sort of, when this happens, it is possible that there's some sort of gas or something that comes out of this eruption that is not good to breathe. And they go on to say in a second channeling that I did later, July 18th of that year, 2020, and they say specifically, and this is why I want to share it, is I think if this happens, if it's true, you want to know this. If you're in this area, they say keep themselves indoors, out of rain, away from air ventilation. Circulate air within their space. Do not breathe outdoors. Do not be outside. Do not look for family. Stay still within the environment you inhabit. Do not change because outside is still toxic. It must be some days. Do not exit. Do not attempt to breathe. Only the air recirculated. Stay safe from heat, from ash. Do not, they say that you can resume capabilities when there is ample air movement. Wind comes to break free your imprisonment. Travel not far from home. Be indoors. So that was that whole message. There was more in there, but that's the key part about that earth rift. And I know I'm sorry, it's a scary message and I don't want it to be scary. But it's how do you say that in a way that is like, it's really, they're saying, hey, you'll be all right. If this happens, don't go outside, stay inside for a few days and know that, and maybe have a plan. If you live in that area, or if you really, and I think it's a good idea for everyone. It's like Boy Scout recommendations, Girl Scout recommendations. Red Cross says, have an emergency plan with your family. Have a communication plan with your family so that if you are ever caught in emergency, you have a way that connecting to one another. And by the way, if you are in an environment like that, don't call, text, because text will get through and calls won't. So, it's just something to be aware of. It's not a thing to worry about. Like they said, we cannot predict or prepare. We're not supposed to live our lives in fear. It's a thing that if this happens, stay indoors and wait until the air is cleared. And that's really the main message. So that is a thing. So here's the crazy thing that I then looked at, and I didn't understand this. I just didn't think to look it up. They said it happens near Indian line, near ocean. So I just this morning Googled Indian line, ocean. And this is what I found. Let's see if I can show you guys. So this is what I found, and this is a slide. I found this on Wikipedia as well. That there is a volcanic line, literally a line, and going down the middle of that ocean right there. That starts up near. Let's see. Let me see if I can find. I took notes on it to share it with you guys. This is called the 90 East Ridge, and it's on Wikipedia. It is 3,100 miles in length, or 5,000 kilometers, and it can be traced. It starts at the Bay of Bengal, and it goes south towards the Southeast Indian Ridge. It's called an intraplate. It's a hotspot volcano. between, I think the Indian and the Australian plates. So, but look at that. And it is a line. And they said near Indian line, near ocean, right? So that was, anyways, I had to share that with you guys. That is not, it is not a fact. Like that's me guessing, trying to understand what they say. It may be that, it may not be that, but it certainly fits the description because I thought it was a weird phrasing, Indian line near ocean. And so there's a line, and that would be the Indian line. That's it, in the ocean. So I don't know. And that is volcanic, and so that could be it. Maybe not. But, and I share it because some of you guys like the information. Some of you would rather not know. That's why I was kind of saying like, hey, I'm going to talk about this stuff. If you don't know, you don't want to know, just turn it off. It's okay. You got the message. You heard the important part. But I want to share with you what I'm getting and, so that you can make choices and think about it for yourselves, so you have what I have in terms of information. So, other things that came up in that time period is, remember they talked about, so they go on to talk about other stuff, but other major events they talk about in that 6-month period is they talk about, a major economic falling, which we all anticipate. Like at this point, the angels have talked about banks failing. They called the bank failing like back then, but it just happened in 2023 and it's still ongoing. But it happened exactly as they described it, which is trippy. They talked about back then, they said it would be large depositors. They said that they would get their money back. It was exactly as they described it. But then they said recently that it would continue, that it's not finished and that small and regional banks may be at risk. So anyways, that they also talked about the U.S. falling apart, that the U.S. is no longer one country at some point, that there may be a presidential figure who dies, and that then it creates a lot of a disruption, a lot of unhappiness in the country, and that may then be the thing that contributes to the falling apart of the country. So these are all things that may or may not happen, but I feel like we're heading into it. They're saying we're heading into it. Like this is where the ruckus is beginning. So that's why I want to retouch on some of these things. And like I said, my channeling was not as good then. I just honestly, like I was just starting with doing this stuff, and it came in these blurps, and it was not as eloquent or fluid. It is much clearer now. And this is how they think about the message today. This is how they talk about it now, right? It's different how they talk about it now. So, and I apologize for the freezing for you guys who are watching this live. And maybe that's not, it sounds like it's going to be problematic with this satellite. So I may have to go back. I have not canceled my other service, so I may have to use that. We'll see how this goes. All right, you guys. So moving on, here's what else they say. And I really think this is important. So the external circumstances that surround you now, to thrive or no, to stay or go, the changes will come. So changes come for everyone. The world will happen. The passings of these great occurrences, though measured in their effect, and this is really important. What they're saying here is the effect, these things sound huge, but the effect is measured. That the whole world is not going to be destroyed, right? They're saying that these are measured. So in other words, the world is a giant place. You can have, like right now, there was just this big, earthquake in Taipei, but it affected a ton of people. But it didn't affect, most likely, most of you who are listening heard about it, but did not experience it firsthand. Same thing with the bridge collapse that happened in Baltimore. That affected some families in a horrible way, but probably did not affect you personally. And that's because the world is a very, very large place. So the effect is measured. Is there very specific things that are happening in order to create a specific outcome, which is the unwinding of all these systems. But the angels have said not everything will happen everywhere. So you may have one thing happen where you are, but not everything. And life will go on and you will be all right, right? And life will change and we will adapt, but we will be all right. And that's the thing, right? Oh, good. It hasn't frozen. So I asked about it. Thank you, Becky. That's great to know. Okay, great. All right. And then they go on to say, in totality, they will have brought about the destruction of many things, so that even though they are measured, that the general effect will be that it does its work, that it takes apart what needs to be taken apart, right? So, and they say, and you will find yourself standing in the rhythm of the cacophony of the changes. And I like that they use the word rhythm here as they talk in the cacophony. A cacophony, I wrote the definition down because that's sort of an angel word of the day. And that is a harsh, discordant mix of sounds. So this is interesting that they're saying a rhythm of the cacophony. So two words that don't go together, right? So because, a rhythm is obviously rhythmic, is like an ongoing, it's like a rhythm has a pattern to it. But a cacophony is discordant and harsh and a mix of sounds. So what that says to me, a rhythm of a cacophony would be, it's almost like jazz, which is like, it sounds like a jumble, but it makes sense. And I think that is what they're trying to tell us, is that this will be like a jumble, but it will make perfect sense at the end because it's leading us towards a divine purpose. Yeah. So, and then say, of the everything that was, it draws to a close, and and feel yourselves aligned. Okay, of the everything that was. So then there's all the things that will be changing. They say, as it draws to a close, and feel yourselves aligned, not by force, but because you are brought forward by what is within you, right? By the chorus and the claim of your own heart, upon the justice of your feelings toward yourself, the fairness of your mind for your own heart, of the sensation of being loved internal. And so interesting choice of words again, the fairness of your mind for your own heart. They're referring here to the end of karma, which they talk about a lot, right? They've mentioned that many, many times, that karma is the ways in which that we judge ourselves. That karma, that's the way I define it. It is not how we are judged by some unfeeling external person, right? It is the way that we then look at ourselves in retrospect and say, wow, I wish I had done that different. I wish I had done that differently. And then we want to fix it. And so that creates karma. And so it is a way we judge ourselves. But then they say of the sensation of being loved internal, the feeling that you are aware, is it the fairness of your mind for your own heart. So we forgive ourselves, right? We forgive ourselves. We see our heart as a loving heart. And we release our karma. So the sensation of being loved, internal. So we forgive ourselves, we love ourselves, right? The feeling that you are held within the bonds of a cherished bridging back to your own self. So held within the bonds means you can't miss it. It's a bond between you and your higher self. It was a plan you made before you got here. So you can't miss out. As in fact, the angels have already seen the future and they know that we make it. So this is a cherished bridging, right? That this is something that we wanted to get back to our own self, to our higher self, to our truth. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Love me, the angel word of the day. Yep, me too. They got a couple. They have another one in here, I think. Or they did at the beginning. They had some angel words of the day. So surmise was another one I underlined. Yep. All right. So then they go on to say, and this here's another bit. It seems like a small sentence, but it says a lot. They say, this occurs and is dealt at the same time as the great ruckus unfolds. So this is a fabulous confirmation of something they said a long time ago, back I think in 2021, is they gave us an inclination or a slight understanding of the timing of when is the flash of light, when is the great awakening moment where we release our karma and where we find our hearts more easily, right? This great assist that's coming to help us if we choose it. And all we have to do is choose it, right? That's all we got to do is let the love in. They say it occurs and is dealt at the same time as the great ruckus unfolds. They said that exact same thing. They said it would happen in the midst of all the other unfolding. So here's a confirmation of that when they originally said it, and they haven't said it since. And so I was so thrilled to see it here again, that the flash of light they've been telling us about happens. I'm assuming this is what that means, because they just finished talking about the feeling that you are held, the loss of our karma, loving ourselves, the sensation of being loved internal. This is all flash of light stuff, right? This is a flash of light. It's all about loving ourselves, self-love. And here they're saying it occurs and is dealt. So dealt means it's like that card is dealt. It is a card, like it's almost like it always was going to happen, and it is brought out onto the table. So it's something that occurs. It's a happening. It is dealt. It's a happening. So it occurs at the same time as the great ruckus unfolds. I think it's so important to not let any of these words slip by, because every single one has meaning. They're chosen. Some people ask, like, why do the angels use such complicated words? It's because every word matters. And if they were trying to say all this stuff with a really limited vocabulary, it wouldn't have nearly as much meaning. And that's why they talk the way they do, is because it's like they pack it with meaning. Yeah. And it's also, they are complicated beings. They don't think in a linear way like we do. So I think this is their way. They go on to say, as the great endowment of crushing, this is heavy, as the great endowment of crushing blows upon this plane of forbearance, the great changes will instruct yourselves to let go. So they're saying the beautiful thing, the flash of light, happens in the middle of the crushing blows. And so the crushing blows, we are in the midst of the polycrisis right now. Like the crushing blows are happening now. Like we are already, these earthquakes that are happening now, like boom, like there's a big one. I mean, like just 2 in a row. And now, like you're saying, now one in New Jersey, and now they're happening. Like it's so many things. It's every day. It's a new crisis. But it sounds like it's going to get more so, that we're on the brink of this new dawn, the new year, the new spiritual year, as they're calling it, the angels are calling it, and a lot of change coming. Major changes, crushing blows, which will break apart. They say the great changes will instruct yourselves to let go. So how do they change us? They don't change us in terms of our heart. Our heart is our choice, but they will instruct us to let go. That is the way they will change us, to release ourselves from the pantomime of living. Don't you love that? I love that. The pantomime of living is that going through the motions, is doing the things we're told we're supposed to do, even though they have no meaning to us, right? It's living as if we're really living, but we're really not. Living in a fog, living in a haze. That's the pantomime, releasing ourselves from the pantomime of living. To let go of the constructs that hold you down, to release yourselves from your forebearers and the afterthoughts which do you no help. So that is really those like, what are the things that we do because of tradition? Because that's what my family always did. Like my family were always air conditioning repair people. And now I'm going to repair air conditioners because that's what we all do. You know, that's the family business. And so I'm going to do it too. Maybe you don't want to do that. Like maybe that's not your calling. So it is that what do our ancestors, what do the constructs of our life tell us we have to do? Maybe you tell yourself, I really wanted to study art, but I'm going into pharmacy because it's practical, you know, and maybe that's not where your heart is. So what are the constructs that hold you down, to release yourselves from your forebearers and the afterthoughts which do you no help, right? And hold you within the patterns of an instantiation that cannot endure any longer. So there's no wiggle room in there. They're saying that this old way of being, our old thoughts, the old things, solutions that we used to think were the smart choices, right? The ways that we made choices, like we talked about a couple messages ago, that idea that we were always taught that it's not smart to leave a job until you have another one lined up. And that was like, you know, business life 101. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, you're not nearly as hireable unless you have a current job. You're leaving a job. You're in a stronger negotiating position. Like all the things that we were told about. That makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. We are changing to a new era, a spiritually driven era. And that was one of my biggest things that I had to overcome as the angels were trying to push me onto my path, literally. Like they never pushed me, but they kind of said, hey, if you don't make these changes, you will not fulfill your purpose. So that was the mic drop for me. That was like the, okay, all right. You said it in a way that I cannot avoid it. And what I had to do was leave things before the next thing was figured out. I had to step into the unknown over and over and over again. I had to leave sources of income before I had a new source of income. I had to leave marriages before I knew where I was going. I had to literally pick up and leave and move into what do you call it? Like a residence inn with my daughter with no idea of where we were moving to. You know what I mean? Like literally you step into the gap and you have no idea where you're going. And that is how it is done in the spiritual world, because when you do that, you free up all the energy that was going to your unhappiness, that was going to try to fight against what it is that you don't like. When you leave it, you free all that energy up, and you need that energy to create the new thing. You can't create the new thing without it. So we have to free up. We have to cut ties. We have to jump into the abyss. And when we do that, we have the energy we need, the spiritual energy we need to move forward into something bigger, to expand. If you don't want to create more of the new thing, you got to get more energy from somewhere. So we got to jump, right? We got to cut ties. We got to stop the thing we don't want to do anymore, even if it's hard and scary. Yeah. And I just want to add to that there are some people who have asked, like some people who have said, hey, I want to start my spiritual business, but I have a spiritual business. I'm making no money right now in my spiritual business, and I really want to do it. So I'm going to quit my job. And I would say, yes, and I would say at the moment we are still living in a 3D reality, and you need a runway. You need some source of income just so you can pay your bills. And so it is perfectly okay to get a part-time job, which will free up half your energy, right? It's perfectly okay to find a way to pay your bills and give yourself space so that you can create the new thing. You just have to get out of the thing that's creating you emotional distress. That's the biggest thing. You gotta stop the thing that's making you miserable. Yeah. All right. So that's a little side note there, but I think it's important. It's an important one. So we go on to say, to let go of the constructs that hold you down, to release yourselves from your forebearers and the afterthoughts. Yes. And so let's go on to the next paragraph. These will fall away, but they force you? No, they force you no further. You are not compelled to grow. You are not compelled to become and follow through. It comes through you because you want it. It comes through you by choice, not by surrender to a force that claims you, but because of the love that is within you. The love for self and for wholeness and for all that is and all you are endowed with. So this is, I think, in the clearest way possible, they're telling us the pathway forward. And they're saying there is nothing that is going to make us do something we don't want to do. And that's going to be true for the people we love. And we have to give them their space to come to their own terms, right? And they may or may not want to go down the same path that we are going. And we have to love them exactly as they are, right? And let them go through their own process. But when you make the choice, the credit is all yours. Like that love that is going to carry you to this new state of consciousness is 100% inside of you. And it's already there, right? And I feel like this flash of light that's coming, it's almost like it just wakes us up to it. It's like the flame is there and the flash of light just turns that flame into a fire. And all we have to do is let it in. That's it. All you got to do is say yes. And part of that saying yes is saying yes to yourself. It's saying yes to all the past woundings and all the hurts and all the things that make you feel not good enough, to say, I love all of that. That to say I'm perfect just the way I am, right? Just the way I am with all the things that I do wrong and all the ways I mess up, right? I love myself. And we have to get to that and say that I'm okay exactly as I am. And it's so hard. I know it sounds really easy to say, but that's what we got to focus on. And I think it's okay if we do it by degrees. I think if we do it a little bit, that's still winning. That every little bit we are able to love and to accept about ourselves is more light that we let in. And that light is cumulative. So every bit matters. And every little bit of light you bring in, you have more consciousness, more divinity. And so you're able to love yourself a little bit more. So it's like the slippery slope up. Yeah. So, all right. So then they go on to say, next paragraph. It is a coming to term of what is already blossoming. I love how this next paragraph, I feel, is beautiful how they phrased it. There's 4 things they're talking about here. 1, it's a coming to term with what is already blossoming in your heart. So it is like recognition. It's already there. Coming to term. It means it's the blossoming comes to full term and fruition. It blooms all the way. A coming to term of what is already blossoming. Number 2, it is the fulfillment of a wish you made in coming. So you had wished for this. This is why you came in the first place. Number 3, it is the continuum of an existence that has carried you here. So in other words, it's the natural conclusion of all the growth you've already done. And then number 4, it is the blessing of a life you are living, which I love that. So in other words, this is the dessert course. This is the blessing that you get because you came here, because you chose this life. And then they say, and the reason for enduring all that was before. Oh, that part that makes me tear up. That is beautiful. What is coming is the reason for enduring everything you've been through. I just love that. Love that. They go on to say, we bring to you now in the sharpening ears of the cacophony of deafening turmoil. So they take us back, and they're not mincing words. They're like, hey, we don't want you to be surprised that there's crazy stuff going on. They don't want us to feel like the rug was pulled out from underneath us. They want us to say, okay, it's bad, but I knew it was going to be this way. They told me this was happening. They want us to know, right? The sharpening ears. This is like jagged. This is difficult stuff. Of the cacophony, which is like the harsh, discordant, not good stuff, deafening turmoil. So they're being really clear. They want us to know, but they also want us to know that they say that you will be freed by choice, not by surrender, because you are guided by love from within. So it's beautiful. And so they're saying, in spite of all of that, everything that's happening, it is all of service. It is all here to unplug us from the matrix, if you will. Like, that's the point, right? To unplug us. And then they say that it will all be worth it. And that we are already, they know, they already see us. We have already succeeded. The love that we are meant to carry is already in us. And all we have to do is accept the light that will ignite that love, right? Yeah. And they said that light is coming in the middle of all of this. So, yeah. Wow, you guys. Okay. So, yeah, I love the message. There's so many beautiful parts in here, like so many beautiful sections. And I wanted to go back and share some of that stuff from before. It's heavy stuff. There's a little bit more from that they talk about. I'll go back and read. I shared another section. Let me find it again. The part about what it's going to be like. But they also say, this is interesting. They say it will be cold. And I think that is because if it's in the ocean, I think that there's enough debris that goes up into the atmosphere that we get there's like the climate changes because of it. I think it might block out the light for a bit. They say you will find yourself grieving the loss of so many. So there is definitely going to be loss during this. You will discover in each other connection, foretelling how you will respond, for this blueprint is settling upon your earth. So in other words, I was saying there that we are headed to a time where there's so much more compassion and love for one another. And that this is the blueprint that we're moving into. This is what it is. This is this new birth, the new beginning that they're talking about. They go on to say commiseration in dark times and cooperation among each other. For you are to be more in your brotherhood and sisterhood. You have in each other the blueprint for how to behave Yeah, so that was that old channeling from November of 2020. That last bit there. So yeah, okay, you guys. Oh my gosh, let me go back and listen to what you guys were saying. I know there's so much we talked about. Will you write out the list of 4 items? Yeah, I will have Ivy turn that into a quote for you guys. So I'll have that turn that into a graphic. And if you would like to receive those graphics, Ivy takes like the most sort of meaningful quotes from every message and she turns them into a beautiful, inspiring graphic and she sends them out once a week, or maybe even more than once a week. At least once a week you get it. Might be twice a week. She sends out these quotes that just to kind of help you stay in the vibe, and she will turn this one into a quote. So, and she makes them really, really pretty. So if you want to receive those, I will put a link where you guys can sign up for that. It's a separate mailing list. That way, if you get them and you get tired of it, you can unsubscribe and you it's okay. It's just there for you if it's helpful, and it's just a free thing. So if you want that, I will put a link. I will put a link below for you guys. But yeah, I will definitely put that in there because it's a cool one. And Maureen wants it too. Awesome. And she'll post it in the Facebook group too, you guys. Linda says, so much wisdom, not waiting for something external that determines our life, but rather allowing what is already blossoming within to move us forward. Yes, I totally agree. And Justine says, I'm sure Ivy will make it. Yep, you nailed it. So you just knew it already, Dashini. Linda said, being freed by choice. Thank you so much. You are so welcome. Thank you, Maureen. And you're saying, I am nearly unplugged. All that has to happen is the matrix to disappear. That is awesome. Linda says, accept the light that ignites that love. So beautiful. Yes. And where was I? I missed a spot here. Hold on. Cheryl says, I have to listen again. So good. I think so too. I've read it already multiple times. And there's, like I said, there's so many words in here that you just can't skip over because they're meaningful. Yeah. You have to read this one with presence. Oh, hi, Niall. She says, Niall says, might you increase your peace bathing to more than once per month as we move closer to this? Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about that. Let me consider that, and I'll chat with the angels and see if that, when you get the peace bathing sessions, you're meant to use them all month and work with them. But I'll ask and see what they want to do as we get closer to some of these more challenging experiences. Thank you for the suggestion. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Medicini says yes. Okay, I will definitely think about that, you guys. Thanks for everything. You are so welcome. Katrina, great to see you. Yay, exciting. You're saying, and thank you. And the angels feel so close now. Wowza. I know, for real, right? They are here on the group as well. I received them. Yep, that's right. Perfect. And then let me go back up to beginning where you guys are talking about it in the start. You say self-love is where it's at. The more I love myself, the more capacity I have to love others around me. That is exactly it. You just said it so beautifully, Em, is that the idea is that when we love ourselves, we then have the capacity to love others. And so it starts with self. So those of us who are in service, it really is the most important thing we can do is to love ourselves. And we do that by healing. We do that by going through and healing those original wounds. Healing is about getting to the space of self-love. It is about encountering the places where we judge ourselves, where we don't want to feel certain things because we judge them or because we're afraid of them or because bunches of different reasons, right? But we slowly let those feelings, those experiences come into our reality, into the now, because everything happens in the now, and we accept them and we acknowledge them and we see them as the gift that they are. And we love those feelings and we feel the feelings and let them move out of us, right? Because feelings have to be acknowledged. They have to be felt. And then when we do that, we make space and we learn to love ourselves. If we love ourselves, we can love everybody else. And that's the goal. Totally. Beautifully said. Heather, hey, Heather, great to see you. Said, hey there, friend, miss you so much. Thank you. I miss you too. I'm glad you popped in. Thank you. And you're saying, great side note, make stepping stones toward your purpose, perhaps not all at once. Take time to build it. Exactly. Yes, totally agree. Dashini says, taking a breath or taking away your health because it is too hard on the body, even if it is fun and well paid. Yep, that is a true thing about some work. Yeah, it just happened to me. I had to leave the rehabilitation clinic I was working so much loving to work at. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing regarding letting go of a career that is causing emotional distress. Yes, for sure. Dashini says, it was hard to leave. I do not regret it. Everything is working out for me. Yes, angels, the divine, all the benevolent forces of the universe are supporting me. That is how it works, right? When I had to make some of those choices, it was funny because they were trying to talk me into leaving and trying to make one of these giant leaps. And they're like, everything will be wonderful. You will be so happy. It took like a couple years. like it wasn't like puppies and roses immediately, but of course, but they don't like, in angel, like angel time is now. All time is now. And they were right. Like it was so worth it. I could not imagine not having made every one of those big decisions. I could not imagine, but it took me some time. You know what I mean? I had to build a new thing, and that took time. But yeah, I would not change a moment. Every bit of guidance they've ever given me was the right thing to do. Every single thing. They've never steered me wrong. Knock on wood. Yeah, they've never steered me wrong. And they have told me some hard things that I've had to do. So, will you write up? Oh, there we go. So now we're back again. So I think there was some stuff in the beginning, but I think I may have lost it here because of the connection faltering. So I'm sorry about that, but I will go back in and read those in the comments after in the group. So you guys, I am so grateful that you were here. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, this message I feel like is a very impactful message, a deep message. It just has so much happening. And as we are talking about healing, if you still want to do soul convergence, you can, especially if you want to be part of the summer program, which is about activating your gifts. I now have a potential start date for that, which I think is July 13th, Saturday, July 13th. And which means that you still have, I think this is probably the final week. If you want to do soul convergence in time to do the summer program, you can start it now and you will get through the 11 weeks and be able to finish and then be ready to see. You have to do soul convergence as a prerequisite because you're going to build up a bunch of energy in that program that you then use to activate your gifts. So anyways, I will put a link to that as well if you want to do it. So it's there for you. All right, you guys, I am sending you so much love. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful weekend, and I will see you next Friday live.